Everyone, welcome back to Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. More specifically, the Doomlink's Random Hunts. No, the Doomlink's Live Hunt series, excuse me. Again, Random Hunts is the non-live version, I'm sure. While that is slightly confusing for me to be saying, it's not technically incorrect. This is the live version of the Random Hunts formula. I've been playing a lot of Try in my own time, and I needed a little bit of a break, so here I am in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, and quite frankly, it's an appropriate sort of break, because it's more enjoyable to see Try in context. In other words, going back and forth between Try and Portable 3rd to see what things were kept in the game, and being able to analyze the way in which the balance shifts between those two different things, those two different expressions of a third-gen formula. I was actually discussing it briefly before beginning what is now the starting point of the VOD, about how this game really is probably Monster Hunter Try, but with more second-gen aspects brought in. Which is funny because I guess you would say that Beta Team are your progressive influence, whereas your Alpha Team is probably a slightly more conservative influence, which is strange to say when we consider that Try was the game to make all the big changes for 3rd generation. But the thing is, Alpha Team tend to stick with the core ideal of Monster Hunter, which is to make it probably a more difficult and process-driven experience. In other words, it's not so much about the result, it's about the process that you undertake to get that result, or to reach that end goal. In other words, everything takes a little bit longer, everything's a little bit more arduous, there's more complexity to basic tasks, it can take just more time to do basic things, and I think Beta Team's influence is all about stripping that down a little bit and getting to that end result. So, you know, the destination versus the journey. Oh god, who the fuck is hosting this? It's Rena. Look at that connection. So basically, I've mentioned this before, your red player in Portable 3rd will host one monster, and the blue player will host the next one. This person seems to be using dial-up from Antarctica. So, there you have it. The experience of returning to Longsword in a more balanced capacity is interesting, because obviously you start to get really used to how it is in Try quite quickly. See, now I have to go and get my charge all the way back up. And it makes the weapon so much more fun, so much more interesting. The strange thing is that Try's change that they made was a change, so they added functionality to the longsword, which was the different levels of the spirit combo, but then they took away the functionality from the earlier games where you would actually need to keep getting your charge gauge up every time you swung that sword in spirit combo. Or if you did a spirit slash of any kind, it would deplete that gauge. I don't know what actually possessed them to step away from that method of doing things. It just makes no sense to me. And that's what's so interesting about going from Try, after having played it pretty much on a daily basis for the last week, and then returning to Portable 3rd. It reminds me of how I felt about Portable 3rd when it first came out, because really the best comparison for me when Portable 3rd came out was Try. For everyone, really. And it was interesting to see what was changed. But weirdly enough, I mean, we can talk about how the balance of Longsword was totally ruined. And this game fixed it, but I would say overall, the fact that this game was something that you could just totally plow through, the fact that it was deemed to be the easiest Monster Hunter game, not just by edging out its competition, but rather by completely blowing it out of the water. This was undoubtedly the easiest Monster Hunter game. Terribly easy. You know, I've never really looked at Monster Hunter as, you know, what's difficult or what's easy. The difficulty is not really the point, but you can tell when you go from a game that really is designed to challenge you to a game that's just designed to be this casual couch gaming experience, or in this, I guess we won't call it couch gaming, we'll call this train gaming if we focus on the cultures of Japan, but yeah, this is train gaming right here, whereas Try is going to demand a little bit more of your attention and a little bit more of your learning abilities. You're going to have to actually learn to succeed. But the very silly thing is that I'm saying all this in the context of 5th generation Monster Hunter being the most recent, which has obviously taken that idea of totally stripping down the complexities of the journey and instead focusing on the destination. That whole concept has been taken to an extreme that Portable Third could never have hoped to reach. That's now just completely out of control, and the very concept of Monster Hunter itself has now been thrown in the toilet, in my opinion, in pursuit of that idea. So, there you are. It's important to be reminded of the fact that while I do talk about Portable Third having its ups and downs, like this is, or I guess when I specifically criticize it for being too simplistic in certain areas, this is still deeply complex compared to some other games that we won't mention. Anyway. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying this longsword. It was a novelty going back to try and experiencing that Try longsword again, but it's fucking boring. It's really bad. All you do is just sit on that R button. Just keep tapping away at it. Strange. Portable Third longsword really is the logical progression from Freedom Unite. If you were to have the Spirit Combo system. It's the logical progression. I don't know what possessed them to do what they didn't try. Very bizarre. I'm not sure, is that... Yes, the paralyses are from Urina, who is no doubt shooting paralysis shots. And that was a nice quick hunt. I'm pressing start to skip instead of select because I'm used to playing try. Well, there you are, that was a nice quick hunt. Oh dear. It's actually a bit hot in my apartment. But not so hot that I need to start stripping for the camera. Much to your chagrin, I'm sure. I may as well discuss what I've been doing in Try. I've made the decision to actually stop playing on that character that I was using for the Hunting with Purpose series. That was a character that I had made about 4 years ago for a Let's Play of Monster Hunter Try. I decided to use that to play through Monster Hunter Try with the servers now back so that I could re-experience the online system, and I'm really glad that I did that. I did it for two reasons. It was for the reason that I just mentioned, and in addition to that, I was prompted to really go ahead with it because I had no attachment to my other character, which was essentially a rushed character that I was... Oh god, that's an interesting picture there. That hunting horn guy is the second coming of Christ or something. But yeah, I had very little attachment to that character because it was one that I'd rushed through in a lot of ways. But I realized, going back to that character, that yeah, certain things were rushed, and I didn't really work on that character in the way that I would work on one today. But I did work pretty hard on the weapons. Like, I've got pretty much most of the weapons that I would want to make in the game, which is good. There are definitely some that I haven't made, some event weapons that I didn't bother making, unfortunately, but I've got most of them, and, you know, I definitely did some solid work there. But there were other things that I just didn't put time into. Like, I never took the time to really grind out talismans. I've got a few talismans, but that's largely because, again, I was working on this character with a sense of frustration that I didn't have my original character anymore, and I'd done so much talisman grinding in that original character that I just didn't have the spirit, the inclination to really get in there and grind some talismans on that character. I've got sort of an acceptable selection, but definitely not what I would hope to have at Hunter Rank 220 in that game. So, yeah, I have decided to return to that character, and I'm doing some work with it. I've reorganized some of the armor sets to be sort of in line with my standard of today. Because again, it's a 10-year-old character, and I was competent back then, but you learn. You do learn, and I can make better armor sets now than I did then. Ones that are a little bit more focused on a particular result, rather than just accepting all of these bonus skills that I really don't need. So, you know, identify a strategy that you're looking to employ with this armor set, and then have skills that are directly relevant to that. I'm trying to do more of that, but I can see why I didn't bother. It's because if you don't have the talismans to serve as a basis for these armor sets, it's very difficult to make anything. So I think that's why I really didn't put the effort in. Because if I recall my first try character, those armor sets were fine. They were mixed sets and they were quite focused. So yeah, maybe that's less a reflection of... Well, no. It's still a reflection of past ineptitude, because I was able to take the same talismans that I had back then, all of the same tools that I had back then, and I quite quickly made something better. So, yeah, I'd say my capabilities were probably largely the same back then, but I can do it faster now, I'm more efficient. My head is in the game to a greater depth than it was before. We'll bring a lance, and we will do nibble snuff. Just randomly selecting things. Wow, here we go. I hadn't noticed that there was such a positive reaction to the suggestion that I might strip on camera. I've got aggressive demands to strip. I've got Potatoes saying that the apartment is not hot, it is me, and that I'm a sexy bastard, and there's also a suggestion that I make an OnlyFans. I will consider it carefully. Is this right for me? Shall I reinvent myself? No, I will not be doing that. Kato has joined the room and has posted his own thing, because he probably thinks that that's his prerogative. I understand, I wasn't in the room when he joined, so... I'm happy to do his quest, it's just that I've already set up for this, so I don't really want to leave and then set up for something else. Oh, I have already sat in the water. Hadn't remembered. But yeah, working on Try Again is interesting. I made the decision ultimately to stop working on that new character, because interacting with that community with a lower level character was starting to bother me. It was weighing on me. Like, I remember the penny drop moment, or perhaps you could say the last straw that broke the camel's back. It was when I was hunting a Goble, okay, in high rank. I'm like Hunter Rank 32, 33 or something like that. And with these HR 40 guys. And I get a frog and I start fishing out the Goble. And I just started and the guy's like, wait! And I take the frog out. And actually, I would say that I had been fishing for 3 to 5 seconds when he said, wait. And I'm like, oh, shit, okay. And I pull the frog out. And then, Goble comes up and spots us. Not, the partial recognition of the hunter where it flashes yellow, but, the monster has seen us. It is a red eye. We are engaged with this monster. And so, we fucked that up because he told me to wait for some reason. Possibly for the other hunters, but why? Like, if they're going around gathering, let's just focus on hitting the fucking monster now, and then they can join when they're ready, because in early high rank, you tend to go around the flooded forest and gather when you're given that opportunity, and that was fine. I didn't take issue with that, but I thought, well, let's just get in there and start hitting this monster, because it's just the two of us. And then, what this guy proceeds to do, because the Goble has seen us, he's completely spotted us, there's nothing we can do at this point. We can't fish him out, because the prerequisite for fishing out a Goebel is that he hasn't completely seen you. What he does is, and everyone has assembled at this point, I go in there to go and fight the Goebel because, it's a foregone conclusion. He's not coming out. We have to go and engage him. He says, keep trying to fish him out. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work. At this stage, you can't fish him out. You have to fight him. But he ignores me, and the rest of the team ignores what I'm saying. I continue fighting him, and they're all just standing on the shoreline, while he's got a fucking frog in the water, while I'm fighting this monster. And it was just that realization that, if I wasn't HR 32, I wouldn't be fucking soloing this monster while these dickheads stand at the shoreline waiting for a monster to bite that's never going to bite, because it's seen everyone. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. At some point, I just stopped engaging the monster, and I just came up to the shore and stood there with them, and just saying, we need to go and hunt this thing. Oh, that's what I said. I said, can we start hunting now? And they just stood there. I couldn't believe it. And, yeah. It is a pretty decently sized nibble snuff, actually. I do agree. But yeah, it was just that realization that... And that was not an isolated scenario. That was just the moment when I was like, no, I can't fucking do this anymore. So I went back to my old character and decided that my time would be better spent trying to bring this character up to snuff than playing with these people. So, yeah. Part of it also is the frustration of slow communication in Tri, because there's, at this stage, no compatibility with USB keyboards, so you have to use the in-game keyboard with a controller. Very slow going, very hard to explain to people why they're wrong, and to convince them that you're right, even though you are a lower hunter rank than them. When you can't actually type it out, you have to fucking use a controller with an on-screen keyboard. Very frustrating. So yeah, I've actually been enjoying myself a little bit more now that I've perched myself at the higher end of the community in terms of hunter ranks. I've now taken on more of a role of assisting people, which is a little bit more a bit more comfortable for me, actually, because I don't, especially for Tri, it's really, really uncomfortable to, have to hunt at the same level as these people and then for them to not accept my advice. Because, Tri is actually the game that I've played the most out of all of them, so I'm really ill-suited to that scenario. And, yeah, it's been interesting. And, to be honest, I don't regret that I did that. I'm glad that I spent the time to play with that other character, because it reintroduced me to the process of going through Monster Hunter Tri. And what the process is, what the experience is that it's very slow going, it's very arduous, it's very time consuming, and it's meaningful. Every time you progress through the hunter ranks in Tri, you feel like you're really achieving something. When you reach that next level of quests, that's as a result of some hard work that you've put in. You don't just do the key quests and blast through it. You have to kill a certain number of monsters. Not an exact number, but enough for you to accumulate the HRP to progress. And I actually like that system. It can be frustrating when you're fighting the same monsters over and over again to get the best HRP, but at the end of the day, it creates a scenario, and I did mention this in my Hunting with Purpose recordings. It creates a circumstance, a scenario, where you are incentivized to help people. There's fucking 3 of us fishing it out, which is really unnecessary, but I guess we can say that there's teamwork at play. So yeah, we're back on Tri with a Lord Zor character. And I can see now why ranking up in Tri is so slow. It's not so much that the HR requirement is so high, or the HRP requirement is so high. It's actually the fact that there's really a small number of quests in the game where you get a decent amount of HRP. So the high rank monsters of the game, let's say the tier 3 monsters that sit below Deviljho and Elatrion and Genmoran, like let's say monsters like Rathalos and Diablos, those sort of monsters, they only give you in high rank a little bit more HRP than they would in low rank. It's not that big of a boost. To put a number on it, I would say 1,500 versus 1,100. You know, it's not that big of a boost, and it's not so much... It's not exactly in lockstep with the increased requirement as you rank up. And what that means is that as you progress, it does legitimately take more and more time to get from one HR to the next. Your HRP that you get from the monsters does not really match that increase in requirement. So, yeah, it takes some time, but for a person who is of a very high rank, like hundreds of HRs beyond, you know, the last HR requirement of 51, hunting those monsters is very unrewarding in terms of HRP. You're getting almost nothing. The only quests that are really decent are Deviljho and Elatrion, and then you've also got the other final star quests that involve multiple monsters. But if you're just going to do a basic quest with, and keeping in mind there is a small number of quests in the game, I guess overall, without getting further into that, that is the point. It is that there is a small number of quests that give decent HRP, so that means that the time that you spend helping other people get through the game is going to be very unrewarding for you in terms of HRP. That, I think, is the primary reason why it takes so long to rank up. But there may also be a high HRP requirement at play as well, because I seem to recall that even if you choose to grind out Elatrion, it can still take longer than other games. Oh god, what's this quest? Twin Shadows in the Dark. Okay, I don't mind doing that. Kato is really quite eager to do that quest, so I will accept. I hope the game's been loud enough, by the way. Might raise the volume a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't go and depart without me. It's entirely possible. It's just, if we're doing a double quest and he's hosting it, it means there's absolutely no chance of me hosting one of the monsters, which means there's probably about a 90 to 95% chance that the monsters are going to be glitching all over the fucking place, so that's most of the reason why I've been focusing on hosting prior to this point, but whatever. Which of these am I? Yes, I want to use this one. The one with a sharpness skill, thank you. Alright, let's get a thunder weapon. Yeah, I vaguely remember you requesting Green Nagakuga then, but I had forgotten about that. Alright, let me join the quest and sit in the water. Don't be too eager to depart without me, please. I have already sat in the water, apparently. Alright. Again, I know it sounds like I'm being paranoid about people departing without me, but hopefully it has happened frequently enough while I'm recording for you to understand that it's not paranoid. It's a fairly realistic concern. How mortified would I be if my Discord window had been open the whole time? How mortified would I be? I'd be very angry. I did go and double check that, P-Berry. Can you just confirm that that was purely a joke and at no point I had my Discord window up the whole time? Because that would be really concerning. Oh, I guess you were mentioning that because I had just gone to check audio. Yeah, I would have been. pretty upset if that had happened. All good. Already starting to get bothered by the mobility of Gunlance, but do you know what? I would sooner take the poor mobility of Gunlance and have it as an option for a weapon type to use than to keep myself limited to the weapon types on offer in Monster Hunter Tri, because it's starting to really weigh on me. I've been very much enjoying gunning. As you probably know, I didn't have much choice when it comes to guns with my new character, but since moving to my old character, my Lord Zor character, I've been able to reintroduce myself to the guns of Monster Hunter Tri properly, and it's been really fun. It's a lot of fun. Because there's actually a lot of detail to it. It's not as simple as, oh, choose this piece to get these shots added to your total amount. Like in terms of what can be loaded into your gun. There's so much more, like your stock can decrease deviation and increase reload speed. Your barrel can either increase or I suppose your barrel can either not contribute to or contribute to deviation. Your frame is really the most important thing that dictates whether you have deviation or not. But again, if you have the right stock, you can reduce your deviation without the need for the precision skill, which reduces deviation. So there's a lot of factors at play, and it's really fun to get into that and find the right bowgun for you. Because it's a balance of your armor skills, it's a balance of those additional abilities that barrels and stocks have, particularly stock in relation to frame, that really is the biggest thing, and also the specific shots that can be loaded in the gun. You know, all of those factors working together give you a lot of control over the loadout you're going to have as a gunner, and it's so much fun to work with that. It's a little bit less fun when you don't have all of the talismans that you might want, so yeah, that's not really a good thing, but I really should be doing Wyvern Fire. Come on, this should kill me. There you go. That's what I like to see. Whoever was hosting that, not too bad. I would say that was Kato. Apparently Kato has a decent connection. Much to my profound displeasure, Rina is going to be hosting the Green Nagakuga. So that means it's going to be phasing in and out of existence, or performing instant transmission, depending on how you'd like to look at that. And I hope you're all ready for that. Ugh, bouncing with blue sharpness. Isn't that encouraging? As I'm sure you can all see, I've been playing very lazily with this Gunlance. What can I tell you? I'll try to use all of the abilities of the Gunlance as I play. You know what I'm actually trying to do? I'm trying to get away from these people beating on the monster so I can sharpen my weapon. I have no desire to use green sharpness right now. Oh, that follow-up, fortunately, is not on my position. But yeah, like I said, it's starting to weigh on me to have so few weapons to choose from in Monster Hunter Tri. The monotony of the game is immense. You've got less weapon types to choose from, which naturally means you have less actual weapons to choose from if you've forged a lot. Oh, it's raining outside. Okay. So you've got less weapon types to choose from, which therefore means you've got less weapons to choose from, but on top of that, you've got so few quests and so few monsters that it's very repetitive. The whole game is very repetitive. And I should mention that when you are going through the hunter ranks, there's a lot of repetition in that as well, because you're going to be hunting a lot of the same monsters to get to the next rank. I suppose that's one of the good things about key quests. It's like, what sort of balance do we want to strike here? Do we want to encourage people to assist one another as they progress through the hunter ranks? Or do we want people to have more fun while they play the game? But also, having said that, is it more or less fun to struggle to get assistance or to get assistance, whether the game's more fun to play or not? I don't know. Like, that's the balance of factors that Capcom had to deal with, and we all know what direction they went in. But interestingly enough, I don't mind the slog. The slog is annoying, and I think that there would have been ways to improve that. Just something as simple as having more quests to choose from for every quest bracket is a way to solve that. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and make it so that you only need to do key quests to progress, you know? That would have been... I believe that was first introduced in Monster Hunter Freedom. So that was the first game where it was key quest focused. So that would have been 2006. Well, technically 2005. I think it was late 2005 when that came out in Japan on PSP. So it was the third game that they released where they did that, but it was a portable specific quest function. So Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter G, Monster Hunter 2, and Monster Hunter Tri, they were all key quest focused, but there was ultimately an HRP requirement to reach your urgent quest. So yeah, I suppose it wasn't really fully solidified that was not going to be returned to. That change was fully solidified with Monster Hunter 4 and 4 Ultimate. That's when it became quite clear. I do miss it. I just wish that the last expression of that system was not Monster Hunter Tri, which was a game that just... no matter which way you put it, it's a game that's lacking content. In a big way. And the game hurts because of it. It's harmful to the game itself, the quality of the game. But yeah, lots of positives. Lots of excellent things about that game. The only reason why I'm not playing it now for you is because it's a quiet period for the servers, and as well as that, I need a short break. I do not want to get burnt out on Monster Hunter Tri again. It's because of getting severely burnt out on Monster Hunter Tri that I lost my concept for the value of the time that I put into the game and was actually willing to do something as stupid as sell my console for something else. Throwing away all of that work on my original character back in 2011. I mean, why would I do that? It was terrible. And, I mean, I've mentioned that before. I've told you all that I've done that on several occasions prior to this point, but I mention it again now because I'm seeing what I've lost. And, I'm not upset about it anymore. It's just that moment where I became so burnt out that I was willing to throw that all away because I didn't care anymore. I was just like, whatever, I've played that game, I've played it enough, I'm done. I want this other thing now. That has informed me for all the decisions that I've made when it comes to retaining my save files for all games going forward. Like, ever since then. I knew that I would never make that mistake again, because you don't know whether or not you'll want to return to a game. And let me tell you, after a certain number of months, I'd say it would have been about 7 to 8 months after I'd made that decision, the desire to play Try Again came back and hit me in the gut really hard. And it was then that I truly realized the terrible error that I had made. So, there you go. Well, that's really upsetting, Vernon. I'm sorry to hear that. He tells me that his Wii U died and he would need to start another save file again. Do you know for certain that you would have to start a new save file? Are you sure that can't be retrieved? Because, I mean, it's not for me to encourage you to do this, but, you know, you really should try all avenues before saying that it's a write-off. Can you get your data back? Well, do not dispose of that Wii U, because you might be able to get the data off it. I don't know how, I haven't looked into it, but I would love it if you tried, because do you know what? Looking back, I could have put my try-save data on a fucking SD card before selling my Wii. I could have done that, but I didn't do that, because I didn't know that I could do that, I don't think. Or at least it had never crossed my mind, it wasn't an option to me at the time. But if I had done that, I would still have my original save file. Now, I don't beat myself up over it because it wasn't even in my mind. It's not like I had considered doing it and decided not to. Then I would really be beating myself up over it. But you know, if I could go back in time and put that onto an SD card, that would be lovely. Because then I'd just be able to put it back on another Wii. That really is a feature of the Nintendo Wii, as far as migrating a save from one console to another. You can just take it off one, put it onto an SD card, and then put it on another system. The reason why I say that to you now is because, you know, if you were to, for example, dispose of that Wii U and then you later realize that your save file was somehow retrievable, or perhaps the Wii U could be saved in some way or another, you'd really be beating yourself up over the fact that you did away with that Wii U. So, yeah, don't assume it to be a lost cause yet. But again, I say this not having learned of the steps you've taken to try and fix it. Maybe you've exhausted all possibilities, I don't know. Alright. I guess I'll be soloing this laggy Ludroth. Just look at it. It's a silly system, isn't it? Well, I suppose it's inevitable. It's a bit late for me to be complaining about the host system now. It's just refreshing to be able to choose to use dual blades. Yeah, I'm not fighting you. Fuck off. I'm gonna hope that this other Ludroth has a better connection than this, because this is pathetic. When you're soloing, it's more important than ever that the monster is not glitching all over the place, because it's just you and the monster. Yeah, this looks a bit smoother. Yeah, dual blades are very well done in Portable Third. There's a simplicity to them compared to, say, 4th generation. But they are a no-nonsense weapon type. Works well. Well balanced, I guess, is what I would say. The things that really needed to be done right were done very well. That's the best way I can describe it. Yeah, shut up. I can't resist roars with this loadout, apparently. We'll have to follow that shadow, I suppose. Rina remained charged with his hammer for some time there. Yeah, I had a feeling that Nagakuga went to Area 2, but it was faster to check that area than to go to Area 2. I think that's Area 3. What are you eating? Is that an actual dead Kelby, or is that just... No, that is not an actual dead Kelby. No, it is a dead Kelby. I thought it was... Very occasionally in different locales you can find a part of the scenery, which is not an actual thing for you to carve. That's probably like a dead animal or something like that. But that is not what that was. I think he's dead. Yeah, he's dead. Died before I could cut the tail. Very well. But yes, the implication of me playing on that Lord Zor character in Monster Hunter Tri is that I will no longer be doing hunting with purpose in Monster Hunter Tri. It will be Doomlink's live hunts in Monster Hunter Tri. I will be doing DOS, it's just the repetitive nature of that HRP system of the Alpha Team games is sort of setting in for DOS. I'm sick of fucking fighting Kongalala over again. Like, repeatedly. It's getting a bit boring. It's not literally just Kongalala, but I think the best quests are Kongalala and Gypsaros. The rest give you almost nothing. I guess there's Kanku as well. But it's woeful. I had best sharpen up. Green sharpness is passable, but it's not exactly ideal. Oh yeah, I think I'm speed sharpening with this set too, so there really is absolutely no excuse for me to not be sharpening. I'm not really interested in the new Armored Core, but I'm interested in the series. Always been meaning to play Armored Core since I started the Soul series, but... no. Which is to say, since I started Demon Souls. But never got around to it. If I were to play Armored Core, however, I wouldn't start with the newest one. Put it that way. I have no prior experience with playing the games. Did they apply some of that Souls formula to it, or was it always a little bit Souls-like? What experience do you have with the older games? Well, that's a bit of a shame. I'm sure that if that's divergent from the original formula of Armored Core, there's probably going to be a lot of older Armored Core fans who would be pretty disappointed to see From Software just mindlessly follow the thing that works, you know? Well, this worked for us, let's do that with our old intellectual property. Okay, there was no lock-on mechanic. Well, they should be cautious. Fans of the older Armored Core games should be extremely cautious about the new one, because by the sounds of it, From Software have just returned to an older game, and they've looked at it through the lens of how to make it successful, because you see, Armored Core was not a hugely successful title. From Software were never a hugely successful company when it comes to developing video games. They were not totally irrelevant, but they were a far cry from what they are today, so I feel like they're trying to make that successful in the way that their other stuff has been successful, and if they're adding aspects of Souls into it, I don't know. It might be a cynical perspective, maybe that would have been part of the natural progression of Armored Core, but it's hard to look at it that way when Souls has been so successful. It just comes across more like unimaginative pursuit of success. I suppose what I would say is that if it does detract from the spirit of the original games, Armored Core fans should make that very well known. Otherwise, it's going to become the same as Monster Hunter is for me. It's just going to move in a direction, and it will be taken over by new fans who say, "How can you gatekeep my experience? I deserve to play this just as much as you do." It's like, well, that's not the point. It's like, that's great, that's excellent, you know what, good for you, but that's not the point, shut up. It's not about people not having the right to play, it's about, you know, you are not in a position to comment on the current state of a series if you have no prior experience with the other games, because you're obviously not able to come to an informed decision as to whether or not things have improved. So, yeah. I'm sure the same thing could potentially happen with Armored Core, but you never know. It may also not take off in the way Souls has. Alright, well, Kator doesn't want to post. He has decided to post twice, and now well, you need to make up your mind, my friend. You really need to make up your mind. Alright, what would I like to do? How about I go through the event quests? Well, if I were to leave and get ready for something, Kato would just post something, so maybe I should just let him post. I'll just let him post, whatever. And in the meantime, I shall visit the little boy's room. I'll be back in a moment. I'm not sure what to think about my viewership. Or my viewers. If me going to the toilet is referred to as off-camera goodness. Yes, you must pay an additional subscription in order to watch me go to the toilet. Because I'm sure that's what you would all very much enjoy watching. Alright. I need to double check to see what has been posted. It is that quest. That's alright, the VOD viewers haven't seen it. Let's give another try. Let's give another try of, yes, I think. It's not normally how I would formulate a sentence, but that should be fine. Let's try again with this quest. I'm going to bring a sword and shield. Why? I don't know. Let's just give it a try. Elatrion Star, that sounds like fun. I'll tell you what I've been using again in Monster Hunter Tri. The Divine Exodus, the ancient sword and shield, that thing that has like 74 raw damage and 720 dragon. It's fun, I enjoy it. I'm sure there are better weapons out there. I'm sure it may only be somewhat effective, because it has very little raw, but it's fun to use. It's fun to use. It doesn't seem ineffective. It seems like it does something. I have yet to be convinced that it's an effective weapon choice. Or a particularly good one. You joke, but there's people interested in that stuff. Vernon quite rightly says potato being one of them, yes. Yeah, people. Well, I'll tell you what, there are also people who would be willing to sacrifice their privacy and their dignity in return for that money. So, sometimes it can be a very natural transaction. I'll dive through that. I suppose I'll just aim for the back legs here. Oh god. If you're wondering why I brought my menu up, it's because when I'm playing Monster Hunter Tri, I am required to press plus in order to complete my weapon combo, as absurd as that may sound. That is actually what you're expected to do. And I've been getting used to it. It feels quite natural, but I can assure you it stops feeling natural when you try it in another game and you bring up the menu instead. That's a bit of a cockblock. Using this dragon weapon, I would much prefer to be aiming for the face, but that's alright. I do have defense down, which is bad news. What are my skills? That's alright. Oh, I need to stop flicking my hair with my eyes closed and instead play the video game. Can I get a knockdown, please? That's not actually a knockdown, that's a flinch, I suppose you would say. It's always encouraging when you're trying to hit the legs and then you begin a combo and like 3 out of your 5 hits don't even connect with the target. Yeah. Oh yeah. Potato says, I still remember that one person who used to watch you that identified as a dragon waifu. I think that person still watches me. Because that wasn't that long ago. If they no longer watch me, it's probably your fault. Because you made light of the fact that they identified as a dragon. I mean, I was admittedly laughing, but I wasn't, you know, saying what I was laughing about. And furthermore, they didn't phrase it as dragon waifu. I can't remember what it was now, but they did identify as a dragon. So. Whatever it was not quite as vanilla as that. If that can be described as vanilla in today's internet, which I think it can. It was a little bit weirder than that. Maybe I should just start aiming for the face. Because I don't seem to be getting very good results from the backlegs. I'm just not getting the sort of knockdowns that I was expecting. At this stage, we are currently sitting at 0 knockdowns, at least courtesy of my contribution. So, yeah. That was an interesting flash bomb attempt, but I regret to inform whoever threw that, not that they can hear me, that they were woefully off target. Maybe not woefully off target. I suppose what was woeful was that it failed, and it was simply off target. I don't really know why I'm bothering to do this with my weapon out, because I'm going to sheath it immediately. That was a much better flash bomb. Good job. I can see that Kato is using the Devil Joe bowgun to rapid-fire dragon shots at this monster. Do you know why you very rarely see that in this game? It's because the only way to get Dragonfell berries is to use your farm to multiply them, I think. I mean, I'm sure you can gather them manually somewhere, but it's really slow going to get Dragonfell berries. I might double check that, because if I can use my farm to multiply them, perhaps I will do that. Perhaps I will try to do that, because I would like to use dragon shots in this game. I just never do it, because it's quite notorious in this game as a material that's difficult to get. You're not exactly showered with Dragonfell berries here. Much easier to get them in Try. Well, that was very quick. Probably thanks to the dragon shots. Don't forget, that was event Acantor, not the standard one. So presumably that had more health than the standard one, and yet that was over and done with very quickly. Well, do you know what, Cartopolis? I'm pleased to say that whether or not Acantor returns in Monster Hunter is not going to mean anything to me, because I don't play any of the new games, so... I mean, if you play the new games, then that's great. Good for you. But, to be honest, I don't have a problem with Acantor. I don't mind him returning or not returning, but, yeah. Even if I did play the new games, I'd be fine with it, but do you know what? I don't play them, so... They can bring him back or not bring him back, and I will be none the wiser, and simultaneously will be unaffected. Freeing as that is. That's an excellent final shot. What am I doing? My character looks like she's having a seizure of some kind. I got another Acantor jewel. I'm not exactly low on supply of Acantor jewels. That is my 15th. In this game, do you mean? You hunted this monster too much because people kept requesting it. Unless you're talking about the puppy fight quest, where you fight Acantor and Ukanlos together, I can't imagine why people would frequently request this monster, because I don't really remember the armor being widely used in Portable Third, and oh no, actually the full armor set I happen to use in this game. I use it as my high-grade earplug set. Sort of a general use Blade Master loadout. But the weapons are not worth using, and people don't use them in this game, so, yeah. Yeah, actually, I'd rather not be updated on the new Monster Hunter stuff. Because people... This is the thing, I've said it before, like... I'm probably the last person to really discuss this stuff with, especially for people who have listened to my opinions. Like, what am I going to say? Particularly if I choose not to play the game. What am I going to say? The same shit I've always said? That's really my only option, isn't it? It's just to reinforce the same thing that I've said 1,000 times, and that is the direction the series has gone in has been to the detriment of the series, and that Capcom seems quite content to not just go in a bad direction, but to pretty much debase the series and forsake it. I mean, what, am I just going to say that every time a Monster Hunter game comes out? Doomlink, what's your opinion on the newest Monster Hunter game? Well, let me tell you. It's crap and Capcom suck. I'll just say that. I'll keep it real simple. God of Avalanche. Okay. We've just had the Yukanlos version of that quest that we previously did put on the board. Alright, that was so quick that I may as well do a Fire Sword and Shield version of that quest. No, that's what I just had. Please equip this. In fact, we've already got the Fire Sword and Shield equipped, which is real convenient. But it won't, Vernon, because there is absolutely no reason for them to do that. Like, what reason would they have to do it? Who would they... What sort of financial return would they get from appealing to a small minority of people? At this stage, with the way the series has gone, they have been shown that departing from the previous formula is what has given them success. So they will not return to it. They will not. What we can hope for is remasters, perhaps. And I don't know if we really want that or not. I don't know if we want remasters from Capcom. Capcom doesn't have much of a track record of doing remasters, I don't think. Maybe they do, but certainly not for Monster Hunter. Hasn't been done for Monster Hunter. So I don't know what that would look like. But, anyway. I suppose it's technically possible that eventually there might be a more classic style Monster Hunter. And the reason why is because it will happen if the community wants it. And I can't sit here and say the community will never want it. Maybe eventually our very novel and avant-garde opinions on traditional Monster Hunter will become more widely agreed upon in the future. But that's not how it is now. And I don't think it's going to be that way for quite some time. Not until people put on their nostalgia glasses and go, oh, good old Monster Hunter, when actually, in the good old days, they weren't playing, and when they had the opportunity to play good old Monster Hunter, they were instead choking the chicken to 5th generation bile. So, until those days arrive, I don't think Capcom is actually going to make a game for us. In other words, don't hold your breath. Come back in 15 years. Are we all ready for Mr. Shovel Chin? No, they're not going to fucking remaster Generations Ultimate. Don't even say that. That makes me sick. The idea that they're going to... If they do a Potato, don't even say that. Do you have any idea how much that hurts to hear? Like, do you understand what you've just fucking typed? If Capcom ever does a remaster, it's either going to be Freedom Unite or Generations Ultimate. Yeah, like the last fucking game that could even be remotely referred to as traditional. I wouldn't refer to it as such, but you know, the last game where you could get away with referring to it as such is the one they're going to remaster? Really? I hope not. I hope you're dead wrong. I hope there is absolutely nothing that could be said to legitimately support that comment you just made, because that would be an extremely regrettable set of circumstances if Capcom finally decided to remaster something and it ended up being Generations fucking Ultimate. Oh, whoops, here I am pressing plus again, or start in the case of Sony systems, as opposed to Nintendo ones. They do refer to plus as start as well, I think it's written on the controller, if I remember correctly. Yeah, well, I would... When you say it's Capcom, you never know, that's sort of like saying, well, technically it's possible, rather than this is what's likely going to happen. So I'm not going to sit around worrying about what's technically possible. I'm going to focus on what's most likely. And I'll tell you what's most likely. We're more likely to get a remaster before we get a new traditional game, and we are more likely to have a shift in community perspective before we get a traditional game for the benefit of you or I. Okay? There is no demand for it. We may think there's demand for it, but demand is determined by the money that they're going to get out of it. And they're not going... I mean, they might get some sort of return, just out of interest from traditional players. I don't know. There are some... Well, sorry, out of interest from modern players who want to try it out, but... I don't know. I think they've made it pretty clear that they don't give a shit about the old games anymore. The game designers probably like them, but corporate couldn't give less of a fuck. That was an excellent flash bombing of the Ukanlos' anus. That was brilliantly done. I also happen to be aware of that rather unknown information that Ukanlos has a pair of eyes in his arse. In his arse, yeah. Which makes it so that when you throw a flash bomb in the opposite direction to where it would be effective for any other monster, you can actually flash him. It's really interesting. You should try it sometime. This would be a fun place to cut the tail of an Ukanlos, wouldn't it? He just pushed me off. That's not very nice. Yeah, I'm sorry, that flash bomb was really bad. Unless you were seeing something totally different on your screen to what I was seeing, that was just a miserable attempt at a flash bomb. I cannot see what's going on. I can only see the body of the Ukanlos. Just trying to avoid any tremor. I don't know if that was a better attempt at a flash bomb, but what I can say... Oh, it did work, apparently. He just didn't react to it. So, can we call that a successful flash? I don't know. I guess we can, to be friendly. Do I have speed sharpening on this? I do. Yeah, so that means I need to be sharpening straight back up to white whenever I drop. That is really trippy to see Kato moving that much. And in that sort of jittery fashion. Here I am pressing plus again. Again, if you see me swinging this sword and shield, and then quite suddenly and inexplicably, the menu appears on the screen, You know why. I suppose it's not inexplicable at that point, is it? There is an aforementioned explanation for why it has come up on the screen, and it's annoying. Yeah, let's see this flying wyvern fly. That's a great idea. Maybe he's like Congalala and he just jumps really high and then keeps floating in that direction until he eventually comes down again. Get away from me, Mr. Nagakuga's longsword. Sorry, Kakali. We've both got the same idea. Well, you see, Potato, he's got the same skeleton and movements of a Tigrex, right? Now, Tigrex isn't a brute wyvern. Oh, he's not exactly the same as a Tigrex, but that is the basis upon which these monsters have been designed. So, consider this to be a very, very bulky version of that. But I do agree, of course, that it's stupid to call him a flying wyvern if he doesn't have wings. I guess he's classified as a flying wyvern, but somewhere along the line, the wings just disappeared. As some sort of evolutionary... well, I was going to say detriment, but I suppose if it doesn't need to fly, it doesn't matter. Whether it has wings or not. I mean, how would that fly? Do you know how big the wings would have to be? I reckon double the size of a Gravios's wings. That would be quite funny to see. Just giant, stony wings coming out of this monster. Might be kind of cool, actually. What a good idea. Maybe its wings were the friends it made along the way. That's true. You know his name, but not his story. Carlos has been on a long journey. And that was another fairly quick hunt. Nicely done. Good team, I suppose. So I'll probably be live for another 40 minutes or so, that would be my guess. Bit less than an hour. I'm fortunate that I do have a team to hunt with, though. Is this the gathering point? It is. What can I get here? I suppose it's reinforcing to know that if you do run out of whetstones, you can get more. That is an important thing to have, actually. Imagine you're soloing this monster, you're 45 minutes in, and you just run out of whetstones, and you're getting lower and lower in your sharpness. All you need is a whetstone to continue. Well, they are actually available. But what are the chances that you know about that? How often do you need whetstones all of a sudden? Usually you have enough for a hunt. Seriously, the connection is so shit. There is at least one person here, and I think it's Rena, whose connection is so shit that when we should have completed the quest, we're instead standing around waiting for this screen to come. It's incredible. I mean, that sort of delay is proportional to the difference in connection between... Oh, that's an excellent final shot. Yeah. That was the moment that I killed Unukanlis, everyone. That's it. I got 2 jewels from that. Very good. I will not be playing Baldur's Gate 3. It's pretty cool that they've come out with a new Baldur's Gate. It's a very old series now, Baldur's Gate. Almost a lifetime ago. And those were coming out. Well, of course, if it's... I have reason to believe that the newest Baldur's Gate is not making compromises for the fact that it's now releasing in a different gaming climate to when the older games were coming out. So if they are traditional role-playing games, RPGs, as opposed to your modern interpretation of what an RPG is, it's going to be good, and, well, I'm sure it is good. People are playing it. I shouldn't be referring to it in future tense. I'm sure it's good, and I'm sure it's a no-nonsense, no-bullshit experience. You know, robust and uncompromising RPG from the old world. What? No bugs at launch? Well, it can't be any good then. See, all the good games nowadays have bugs at launch. The really good ones, almost unplayable. So, what's going on? What have they done wrong? Can't believe it. No bugs at launch. Yeah, take notes. Literally every other fucking game developer. Well, it's not the developers. Like, this is the point. Like, I was the one who made the mistake in saying it, but it's not the game developers who are at fault that these games are fucking buggy at launch. Because I can tell you, it wasn't the game developers saying, no, let's release it at this point. It'll be ready. Let's do it. Yeah, no problem. I can tell you who was screaming and crying. It would have been the developers saying, we can't do it in this time. And then the publisher saying, tough shit. What the publisher needs to realize is that, actually, while those who have a stake in this will scream and cry if it doesn't come out at a certain point in time, it needs to come out soon, we needed return on our investment. Well, what if the return on your investment's going to be shit because you're impatient? I mean, I suppose that's a simplification of the circumstance, but the thing is, it happens so often and so frequently in that space that you'd think people would just learn to be patient. Strike a balance between not giving them endless time, because if you give a development team endless time, they will take all of that time. They will spend forever designing the game, but, you know, if they need a little bit of extra time, have a conversation with them. Get them on a road. Get a roadmap. Work out what needs to be done, and why it can't be released at this time, and get it working. But I guess there's other things to factor in. Lots of other things to factor in. I'm sure it's a complicated thing. It probably speaks more to the industry going backwards rather than the companies individually being irresponsible. Alright. So, I'm trying to remember what was just put on the board. I don't remember. What was it? I did check. I genuinely have forgotten. Too busy chatting. I'll have to equip something that will work no matter what. What would that be? Yeah, how about Darkest Coffin? That sounds like fun. I just need to remember how to use it. Oh, Alatrion, thank you. Kakalang, who is playing with me, is watching the live stream. Good on him. Alatrion. Arbatorion. What would be most fun? Oh yes, do you know what I really need to do in this game? In this game, much like Monster Hunter Tri, Evade Extender is actually a 15-point skill, so What I need to do is not do this shit. I need to actually shift the goalpost slightly. I need to make it so that I'm not using heavy bowgun, but instead light bowgun, and then have something a little bit more robust attached to that. Because, yeah, I came to the same realization in Monster Hunter Tri with using Evade Extender versus not using it. And I will apply that to this game as well. I will remake that set. I've always wanted to remake that set. It looks so uninspired, doesn't it? Anyway, I apparently already have a Rapid Pierce set. I made this recently. Well, good on me. I'm going to use this. When I say I made this recently, I would say I made it this year. Probably 2 months ago, actually. That recent. So I'm going to use that. At first I heard Rapid Piss set. Yes, Rapid Piss. The issue is that I'm not pissing fast enough. It's not a matter of frequency, it's a matter of speed, of expulsion of fluids. I have a set of pills that you can take to make it come out faster, at a higher pressure. Maximum urine velocity. You are the one who led this conversation in this direction, Potato. And I will not thank you for it on this occasion. So, let's see what this thing loads. 747. Boeing would approve. Alright. I may as well, just for good measure, bring some normal... No, I'm not going to purchase normal level 2. I have 389 of them sitting in my box, so I will do that. Oh, do I really have to... Yeah, I don't want to bring combination materials for it, and I'll tell you why. It's because I don't want to bring the combo books. I don't have the space for this shit. Where's my gunner pouch? I want my gunner pouch back. This sucks. Excuse me. And Kato is using Devil's Madness. I hope he's not one of these people who thinks that Elatrion's weak to Dragon all the time. Like, he's going to be one of those people who just completely empties his balls in this Elatrion's anus with his Dragon shots when the thing is actually on the ground, at which point it takes minimal damage from Dragon. He's probably going to do that. I can smell it. I can actually smell it from here. I suppose we'll call it, incompetent hunter prognostication. You know, I can see it before it happens. It's like it's a special ability of mine. Anyway, I could be wrong. I might be... I could be very unfair in what I've said here. What am I going to bring? Am I going to bring combination? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see what I'm rapid firing here. I'm rapid firing Pierce 2. I'm going to just go for it and not bring combination materials. It's not that risky because, to be honest, this monster should be dead before I'm out of Pierce shots. Hey Hossein. And I guess welcome back, bread users. Truly disappointing that Capcom doesn't prioritize the player's ability to visualize their maximum urine velocity, yes. It is crushingly unfortunate. Yeah, I can't think of a worse matchup, actually, Potato. The Divine Exodus with Elatrion. The only time you can actually really harm it with all that dragon damage is when it's difficult to reach it with a sword and shield. I can see why you would have thought that it took dragon damage though, but I was pretty much glued to the Monster Hunter Wiki back in those days, and they were very good. Like the Monster Hunter Wiki, the fandom wiki, I will be the first to say that they suck these days. But back then, in terms of your online references, they were on top of it back in Tri. Absolutely on top of it. They had good weakness charts, they had comprehensive information on all the things you really needed to know. And that included the fact that Elatrion had different weaknesses depending on whether he was in flight or on the ground. And that's a big deal. It's important to know. Oof, reload's a bit slow on Pierce though. Okay. Well, apparently I have resistance to the Blight. Why? I have positive 7 dragon resistance with this loadout, which is pretty good. This will be very good for Elatrion. I'm not that eager to fight Elatrion. I need to keep all of my Elatrion fights for Tri, because I'm telling you, that's once you're past HR 51, that's like one of the only decent quests you can do for good hunter rank points. So I don't want to get sick of hunting Elatrion in this game and then be forced to fight him in Tri, because I'm not going to be in the mood. No! Ugh. Never position yourself like that in relation to the Elatrion, because you end up getting a big exploding fireball in the face. This is an attack that's new to Portable Third. He didn't do that in Tri. So I fought Elatrion for the first time in Tri, I'd say about 6 days ago, something like that. Maybe 5 days ago. And, oh, that's an excellent flash bomb. Yeah, flash him while he's down. Get him! Get him! And, yeah, it was amazing to see how infrequently he went in the air. I knew it was infrequent, but wow. Like, he would be on the ground for a good 5 minutes without going into the air, with heavy damage being dealt to him. He just wouldn't go in the air for a while. It was incredible. And so much better, by the way. So much better. Maybe not for all the people engaging him with dragon weapons, but I suppose they're still doing plenty of damage with their purple sharpness. Assuming they've got sharpness +1. Which most people do. That was a good horn break. Surprisingly, the sensitivity of aiming in this game is considerably lower than Tri. Wasn't really expecting that. No, actually it's okay. I think it's alright. Maybe it's about the same as Tri. Ugh. It's alright, I don't need to wince when I get hit by him in that mode, because I'm not using elemental damage, and even if I was, I'm not being hit by, or I'm not being forced to endure or to suffer the effects of Dragon Blight. Quite fortunately. Alright, see you, Vern. Thanks for tuning in. Now this is where I have to actually be quite good with my aiming, because I'll be shooting in this direction for a while, so that means that needs to take account of whatever movements the Elatrion may possibly make from the moment that I begin shooting to the moment that I have completed my shooting. And ideally you want all 3 to come out. No, why do you do it like this? It felt like it was quite inconvenient for him to reposition to that extent in order to hit me, but it was very important for him to hit me in that moment specifically. That was the way that whole scenario looked like. I think that's 4 shots, isn't it? Yeah, I've got bonus shot, that's why. Bow. Just means I have to be a bit more accurate, that's all. Why do I even bother at that distance? It's unfortunate to play games like these where the time that you spend after having reached the final hunter rank is not reflected in a rank. It's only reflected in the materials you acquire, the number of quests you've completed, the number of uses you have with your weapons. It's only visible through the guild card. I like to have it just quite clearly represented by your hunter rank. Just a quick way of determining someone's experience in the game, or at least the amount of hours they've put into that character. It was something I very much appreciated in Monster Hunter Tri, because Tri was the first game that I had played that had that system. And I quite recently discovered that the first game to have an HR break was DOS. I didn't know that. I thought it was Tri. I just assumed that Tri would have been the first to have an HR break, but DOS was the first one. The highest hunter rank I've seen in DOS so far is like 400 and something. So they were obviously the first to have that system. I haven't encountered it yet because I haven't gotten that far in the online of DOS, but yeah. Very cool. It's such a foreign concept to me to be in, you know, ranked in the hundreds for a hunter rank in a second-gen game. Such a weird idea. I don't even know what that would look like in terms of progression. Like, how much time would it take? I'm going to assume, because I have limited experience, that it's very similar to Tri. But it could also be totally different. I don't know. Hopefully that's a fully carvable Latreon. It is. But yeah, just a really idea. What? A really strange idea. I do need to play more Frontier. I won't deny that. I mentioned it briefly before, but the reason why I haven't been playing Frontier recently is for 2 reasons. The first is that I needed a little bit of a break. I played it quite a bit. The second reason is because I need to move my save over to a better server, I think. I was advised that the server that I joined wasn't like a very good one. It was okay, but there are better ones, and I do want to go through the process of migrating my character before I put any more time into it. That's important to me. And I don't really know what that looks like yet. I don't know what the process is. I don't know how difficult or easy that is to do, so I will work on that when the time comes. Is Rain the Japanese server? Because I've been... Hold on, let me have a look. There's one called Meze Lounge. Or at least that's the name of the Discord that it's associated with. And I've been in that server for a long time now. When did I join that server? It's basically a server for Frontier players. And it has its own, well, it's a Discord server for Frontier players, and it has its own Frontier server, so... where am I? There I am. So, I joined... Oh, it was November 2022, so it wasn't that long ago, but... Yeah. It was technically before I was actually playing Frontier, so that's why it feels like a long time ago. Alright. I think that was the one that I was going to join, Hossein. So, I'll try to transfer things over. As I said, I don't know what's involved, so hopefully it is easy. And I'm also glad that I didn't bother bringing combination materials for that hunt. That was over and done with very quickly. I need to ask the current server for my save, really? Really? I didn't think that would be necessary. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Well, that sucks. I thought that... Well, hold on. I thought that you would be able to have control over your own save. That's something that you have to request from whoever owns the server. That's really annoying. That's a terrible situation. I want to be able to... I suppose you can request it for backup purposes, but... Yeah, that's nightmarish. Because it just adds that extra step. If you could have access to it yourself, that would be so much better. I'll just ask for a backup of my save. Alright, so I don't know what our next hunt is, so I will return to have a look. I shouldn't have left before figuring that out. What is it going to be? If it's fucking Elatrion again... Well, I'm not really in the position to leave, but... Oh, excellent. This guy who is hosting has a shit connection. Because I checked the board and his quest isn't even on the board. The Dancing Storm. Alright, well don't depart without me. I will be there momentarily. I'll bring something. I guess rapid fire. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll bring a greatsword, something a bit different. I don't usually greatsword a Matsuma Gatsuji. Well, I'll get that done soon, Hossein. The thing is that with Frontier, it is a low priority for me. It's very much a low priority for me. Because at the moment, working on my try-save and also Monster Hunter DOS are what's going to take most of my time. I want to focus on that, and then maybe I'll play some Frontier every now and again. I suspect that of all the Monster Hunter games, that is going to be the one that I'll have the slowest progress in. Most likely. Let's go. I'm not the only person going Dragon Greatsword in this hunt, which is cool. Yes, yes. Just doing a starting attack on the face. It's my form of greeting. What was that? Something just went on there. Maybe that was just a flinch. It's funny, as I play Portable Third here, I'm very much in the mood to go and play Monster Hunter Tri. So I might take a short break and then begin a second recording. in Monster Hunter Tri, which is crazy. I mean, when was the last time you guys saw me do a back-to-back Monster Hunter Live Hunts recording? Well, I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it. Oh, here we go. This is important. Oh, we already got a flinch. That was very well done. My DPS is very good, because this Amatsu is not doing much to me. But yes, after this Portable Third recording, I will make this undertaking now. If circumstances change, I will certainly mention that on my Discord, but I think what I'll do after this recording, probably 15 minutes after I finish this one, I will do Monster Hunter Tri. So that'll be on my old character, I'll play online, and yeah, it'll be endgame high rank, as opposed to working on a new character. Using armor sets that, to be honest, are not exactly my favorite kind of armor sets. My overall loadout for my character in terms of armor sets is not what I want it to be. But I'm accepting it as something I can't really change right now, because I do need to get a few more talismans. I don't even have a fast charge talisman in that game, which is upsetting. I do have a greatsword set, but I'm not that happy with it. So yeah, there are still things for me to do with that character. Whoa, just did speed up. The reason why I accidentally did speed up there is because, well, speed up is R3 for me, but my right analog stick is whistling, squeaking, so that was not intentional. Sometimes I press my right analog stick to try and snap it into place and get it to stop squeaking and making stupid noises. The problem is, however, if I'm playing on PPSSPP, that's what I use to speed up, so yeah, that's not great. This controller is terrible, I need a new one. As a priority. I just didn't want to spend extra money on an OEM fucking controller. You know, like a Sony one. But you get what you pay for sometimes. I'm surprised that Kato was able to take that hit. He's got gunner defense, and he still had a third of his health left. That was pretty good. Where are you? There you are. Yeah, I got a Power Wave Accessories DualShock 3, and it just, yeah, it's shit. It seemed like it was what I was looking for, but the quality is really low. I just want a controller with the button layout of a DualShock controller. That's what I really want. And it's hard. It's hard to really get one that's cheap. I would be happy to get one that's expensive, but those are usually second-hand official ones. If I could get one that's brand new, that's not necessarily cheaply made, that would be excellent. It turns out that those requirements are very specific. To get a brand new controller that has that layout that's not fucking, you know, a PS4 controller, for example. Well, that was a very quick hunt. So to make sure I didn't. Okay, my webcam still seems fine. I bumped it slightly, so I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't caused it to go off the green screen. Speaking of controller, PS5 controllers are so dog shit. That's what I mean. I don't want to spend money on a shitty DualShock 5. DualSense controller. It's not DualShock 5. I think that's what it is, right? They don't use the word DualShock anymore. But yeah, I don't want a DualSense controller. I don't want a DualShock 4 because my experience with DualShock 4 is that I'll use it for less than a year and I'll already be getting stick drift. And that's what happened with my last one. And if I get an official PS3 one, it'll cost a lot of money, so... And the reason why I'm not willing to spend that sort of money on a PlayStation 3 official controller is because it has a fucking mini USB port, which, like, they honestly suck. So I find that they don't, like, I'm sure it's rated for enough insertions, but quite early on, the cable will not stay fully inserted for very long. You'll have to keep pushing it back in. So... that's very annoying. I play a lot of fighting games and already went through 3 PlayStation 5 controllers. Never had that happen to me in previous console gens. Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. It's understandable why you would go through them faster playing fighting games, but that's bad. That's really bad. Well, getting a cable is not a bad thing. It's not that hard to get a mini USB cable. It's the port that I'm concerned about. It's hard for it to... so they just don't last. It's like micro USB. It's a shit port. Mini USB and micro USB, they're terrible. Really bad. USB-C is an absolute godsend. Yeah, the port on the controller. Because the cable that attaches to it, because the port sucks, and it doesn't really grip the cable very well. At least not when you've inserted it a few times. It just, the cable slowly slips out of it. I don't just mean this controller, I mean all the PS3 controllers I've ever had. The thing is, you generally don't have to worry about it as much with a PS3 controller because naturally you're going to use it Bluetooth, but if you're using it wired, as I am, it's problematic. Yeah, I'm sure my Xbox 360 controller would work fine with my computer, it's just that I don't want that. I don't want that big, bulky thing in my hands, and I also don't want that controller layout, that button layout. I specifically want this button layout. It is what is most comfortable to me. Well, I haven't tried the wireless, to be honest, but you have to jump through more hoops to use it wirelessly with a PC. The setup I use is basically a driver that tells the computer that an Xbox 360 controller is connected rather than a PlayStation 3 controller. I don't know if that works wirelessly or not. I haven't set it up to do that. It may work, I don't know. But rather than worry about that, I'd rather just get a new controller. A better controller. And then I'll worry about wireless or wired later. This quest again. We'll stay with Greatsword, but I'll change to Deviljho. Just so that way we're not using the same thing repeatedly. Oh, hold on. I will change to my Sharpness +1 Greatsword set. That will be more appropriate. There we are. The colours on this Greatsword are so cartoonish. All of the Deviljho weapons, actually, look really cartoonish in this game compared to Monster Hunter Tri. And obviously, 3 Ultimate. I've always drawn comparisons to Tri and 3 Ultimate, but I find myself prompted to draw comparisons now because I have been playing a lot of Tri, so If I mention try more frequently than I normally would, that would be why. But again, I have always made those comparisons. They're just fresh in my mind. You look like a Power Ranger with the full set. Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's very bright. It's not meant to be bright looking. But you see, the game is bright. That's what happens. I don't know if we've lost our other hunter. I will leave that up to Kakalang. He probably knows whether or not we've lost that hunter, so I will ready it. Yep, seems that we have. And if we haven't, then bad luck to that guy, to be honest. Actually, I might go this way. Or not. Decent flashbomb. Would like to get that chest. And now I'll go for the face. I've changed my mind. Yeah, it's interesting that I'm assuming it works this way in this game. I know it does in Freedom 2 and Freedom Unite, but the elemental weaknesses of this monster actually change based on whether or not you break the chest. As I understand it, Dragon is best if the chest is broken, but if the chest is not broken, it's actually best to use Thunder. Now, if I'm wrong about that, it's because I've swapped those around in my head. It could be the opposite. But it's something along those lines. It's interesting that breaking the chest will change the elemental weaknesses. I like that. That's an old Monster Hunter thing that I quite enjoy. Maybe there's been a return to that. I shouldn't just assume that it's an old Monster Hunter thing, but I do like that. Thank you for the life powder. Oh, okay. Just slowly progressing further and further to the rear of the monster. With my attack combo. What are you doing? Well, we don't have the option to find out. That was very much off target. Yeah, it looked like he was walking towards something. He had something to do. He had a task. And then he got flash bombed before we could find out what that was. Catch you later, potato. Yeah, I'm worried that when I do my tri-stream, you'll all be asleep. And that's probably what's going to happen. If it seems like that's how it'll be, I'll save it for another day. I'll shield this and then sharpen up. It's only a small sliver of white, but again, with a greatsword, I think it is better to really take the time to sharpen up to a higher sharpness level, because you're dealing with a weapon that is not hitting the monster anywhere near as frequently as other weapon types. So that small sliver of white is... you're going to get more mileage out of that than other weapon types. You'll be able to get a whole lot more damage out with that sharpness level, specifically. Are you for real? I was quite sure that I had avoided the hitbox there. Of course, the only reason why I died was because I had defense down, which has reduced my defense so immensely that I'm quite sure I had about 80% of my health there. Maybe it was a little less. That's my recollection of it, but... yeah, that's pretty bad. Not good at all. But yeah, as I said, I was quite sure that I had avoided the hitbox, which was primarily the frontal part of the monster, towards the face and the shoulders, but I guess it managed to catch me. Oh god. Zenoga is an excellent fight in this game, not just because of how he fights, but just the whole scenario, the whole circumstance. That music is really good. I love that music. I'm so used to it now, it doesn't have much impact on me anymore, but I remember when this game first came out. Just the nature of that fight, and that music, was very intense and very cool. He was a huge fan favourite. A very loved monster in those days. That hasn't really changed, I guess. But he was very well received. Look how much damage I'm taking with defense down. It is incredible. That's almost worth using a max potion with. We'll do this instead. In case we do fail. That way I will have only lost one max potion rather than two. I don't think we'll fail. But hunts like these really show that it's worth bringing just some basic adamant seeds to this quest. Because that defense down is not minor. It's very much the difference between surviving and not surviving. Yeah, well the Jaspers in this game are the worst. Really bad. Because all of these Zenoga weapons are so damn strong in this game, they balanced it so that Jaspers were very difficult to get. And yeah, it's a nasty grind. But I've got a decent number of them still. Of course, you get more lucky with them when you no longer need them. Did someone just dunk? Oh, yeah. It was funny. I was seeing some very unfamiliar animations from this Acantor, and I realized it was because someone threw excrement at him. That would cause me to do some strange things as well. Alright, nicely done. Well, that's a memorable way to kill your first Zenogre. Alright, well, that will probably be my last hunt for this recording. As I said, I will go live into... Again, I don't really have a reason not to at this stage. I will go live in Monster Hunter Tri, I'd say in about 15 minutes time. I want to get it set up. I mean, say 15-20 minutes, something like that. I want to get it set up. It will take less time, naturally, because I've already got this in a state where it is ready for recording. Because I'm currently recording, obviously. But, well, hopefully there will be people to play with in Monster Hunter Tri. We'll see how we go. But I'm very much in the mood. I'm in Monster Hunter mode. The return of the Tri and DOS servers has very much thrust me into a Monster Hunter mode. And that's why I'm doing 2 consecutive recordings. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this Portable Third recording. I can't imagine many people watching the VOD because apparently people don't like Portable Third who watch my channel on YouTube. I still don't know why that is, but whatever. I will see you all when I am next live or when you can next catch me, and I bid you all farewell for now. Bye bye.